For as long as I can remember, the default web page on my computer has always been the BBC News website. This meant that every day I was unconsciously absorbing news headlines and often being lured into an endless doom scroll about the state of the world. That has got to be the worst sound in the world. At the end of October 2022, Liz Truss had just had a catastrophic reign as Prime Minister.
I am a fighter and not a quitter.
I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party.
I had just had enough. I didn't want to hear about any of this crap going on around me which I didn't have any control over. So that was a starting point for this experiment, a news detox for the month of November. I'm calling it No News November. I'm quite proud of that alliteration. What I didn't expect was just how hard it would be to avoid the news, and unlike previous 30-day experiments I've done, this one didn't just affect me.
I mean, I found it quite annoying that I haven't been able to have any conversations with you about current affairs.
In this video, I'm going to look at how a lack of news for 30 days affects my mood and share the things that I think you can do to limit your news consumption but also feel happy and informed. News is everywhere. It's very, very hard to escape from it. And most news is negative. Negative news gets more of an emotional response, people pay more attention to it, and therefore we get fed more of it. It's why at the end of news programs you might find one positive, amusing, or uplifting story, as if it counteracts the sheer weight of negativity that precedes it.
How about that? That squirrel can water ski.
Over the last couple of months, I've significantly reduced my exposure to social media. Whilst this has had a positive effect on my mood, the flip side of this is that my news consumption has gone up. My worst habit has been quickly checking the news whilst waiting for an edit to render or export, and finding myself on a 30-minute doom scroll before getting back to the task in hand. I would go so far as to say that exposure to news is more detrimental to my mental health than social media. My YouTube channel is all about the things that I do to feel happier. I have no doubt that avoiding the news for 30 days will make me happier, but to what extent and at what cost? Let's find out. There are a number of things I need to do in order to make sure I don't come into contact with the news over the next 30 days, and the first of these is to change the default web page on my computer. So I'm changing it from the BBC News webpage to really.boring.website. Nothing about this website is enticing or will make me want to go for a doom scroll. It goes without saying that social media is out for the next 30 days. I'm deleting the apps from my phone and actively logging out of Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter from my desktop accounts. To get around the boredom of driving without listening to the radio, I bought a Bluetooth speaker for my car. The main purpose of this is to allow me to listen to audiobooks whilst driving and not be tempted by the radio. I can't stop other people talking to me about current affairs, so if this happens during the next 30 days, I'll just have to explain what I'm doing and why. It's very early on in this 30-day challenge, but already I'm really noticing the triggers that would normally compel me to go and look at the news. It's usually when I'm bored or I just need a dopamine hit. It's simply me procrastinating. And I find this interesting because subconsciously I've been telling myself that looking at the news is a good thing to do, it keeps me up to date with current affairs, but deep down I know I only do this to waste time. I have noticed already that I'm feeling a lot calmer. I am wondering what's going on in the world, but I think avoiding the news combined with not looking at social media, the double whammy, means that I'm just being exposed to a lot less information. As a result, the days just feel less hectic, more measured. It's a slower pace of life, but I really, really like it.
500 friends from the morning.
I have the opportunity to speak to a former broadcast journalist, and their opinion on this subject is wildly different to mine. They promise not to hold back on what they think of my 30-day no-news challenge, largely because it's my wife, Kirsty. You are a former broadcast journalist, and one of the things I have noticed about you, because I have been married to you for a long time, if you were left alone in a room by yourself, you'll put the TV on and the news will be on in the background. Why do you do that?
I think that in a really bizarre way, I find it comforting.
I mean, one of the reasons why I've done this is that the news has been incredibly negative. There's not been a lot of good news this year. What comfort do you take from having endless negative news?
I guess I enjoy the news because it's something that has been a huge part of my life and my career. As a journalist, I really enjoyed informing people of the news. I enjoyed really like a deep dive into subjects. I really enjoyed finding out about new things, researching things that maybe other people might not know about. So I guess I still always have that hunger to find out information.
You will gladly fall asleep with the news blaring in the background, hearing these negative things going on in the world, and that's the last thing you're going to process before you go to sleep.
Well, maybe I just don't have the same reaction to it as you do. Generally speaking, I find it will cause me greater anxiety not to know what's going on than to know what's going on.
I just don't understand why we need to be informed about everything that's going on. Why can't we just live in blissful ignorance?
Because it is ignorance. It might be blissful for you, but it's not very blissful for me being your wife.
The thing is, okay, so me avoiding the news makes me happy, but it makes you unhappy.
It doesn't make me unhappy. I just find it a bit irritating.
Maybe I just take my news from you. You could be my source.
No, don't, because I have my own biases.
Yes, but I know what your biases are, and I'm probably in agreement with most of them.
Well, I also feel that's a lot of responsibility for me, especially us having kids. Like, I feel that the weight of responsibility is on me to keep you informed, which is just stupid. And also just to be aware of what's going on and the issues in the world that might affect our family, or that I feel that we should be aware of and maybe helping with or doing something about.
This is a very valid point. As a civilized society, we have a duty to know about what's going on in the world around us so we can help others in situations which are far more precarious than our own. But how can we stay informed about this stuff without it affecting our own mood? That is my dilemma. On a separate note, I'm fine with Kirsty finding me irritating if I know nothing about current affairs. She can just add that to the long list of things which she finds irritating about me. Yesterday I was filming in a corporate office, and while I was waiting to start, I was sat in reception, and there was a large plasma screen showing rolling sky news coverage. Fortunately, the sound was off, so I didn't absorb too much of the information, but I spotted at least 3 other plasma screens around the building showing this news coverage. Whilst I understand that in some jobs, it's important to understand what's going on in the world, this idea that the news should just be inflicted onto you just seems totally unnecessary. I'm now at the end of this 30-day challenge. Throughout most of this month, I've had this slightly nagging feeling that I've been missing out on things. I really don't like this feeling, and I think it probably confirms that I have a compulsion or even addiction to looking at the news. But having now looked at the news, not a lot has happened over the last 30 days. The key things that I've missed are the president of FIFA is an absolute twat.
Today I feel disabled.
Kanye West is a Nazi.
I see good things about Hitler also.
There's been some managerial sackings.
Ralph Hasenhüttl.
We almost had World War III. So I missed a fair few things.
I love the way that that's third on your list.
I wasn't necessarily listing them in order of importance. What this has done is just made me think really about how I'm going to consume my news in the future. And I think what I am aware of is that avoiding the news just is making me happier. So I need to strike a balance between knowing about current affairs but not taking on too much that it affects my mood. So after careful consideration, these are the things that I'm now going to do so that I can largely avoid the news and remain happy while staying informed about the current affairs which I probably ought to know about. Change my default web page. This was a really smart move. The really boring web page is just a little visual reminder not to get sucked into endless web browsing on the BBC News website. Set aside a specific time to consume the news. I'm only going to do this now at weekends, and I will aim to read longer form journalism, which tends to be much better researched. I'm going for quality over quantity. Unfollow all news sources on social media. Nothing good comes from being interrupted by breaking news stories. Avoid clickbait news stories. Respected news organisations don't care about views and likes, and you're far more likely to encounter moral outrage through clickbait news that will affect your mood. Avoid broadcast news. I won't be watching television news or listening to news on the radio. Take my news from more than one source. All of the news I read tends to support my previously held beliefs, creating a confirmation bias. For the sake of balance, I'm going to read different news sources. Fundamentally, my news consumption is going to be significantly reduced, but not to the extent that I'm totally ignorant about what's going on. Is this going to be enough to ensure that I don't irritate Kirsty? Time will tell. If you found this video useful, then please hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and you'll get to see more of the experiments that I undertake to lead a happier life.